Okay, I think we're going to get started. Welcome everyone to Career Conversations, a University of Rochester webinar series developed to help you leverage your existing talents and pursue new ideas. I'm Michelle Cavalcani and I work in alumni relations, identifying and developing professional development resources and programs. Today, we're delighted to have Jody Smith from the class of 1990 with us, and I'm so thrilled that she's taking on this topic of mentorship. She will present today's webinar as part of a dual program to provide an overall overview of what mentorship is and is not, explain the importance of unbiased feedback, and offer some tips and tricks to ensure successful mentoring relationships that are beneficial to the professional development of both parties. Today, she is tackling the topic of the mentee. So how to be the model mentee and making the most of the mentorship relationship. And tomorrow, Jody is going to be talking about the role of the mentor. So welcome, Jody. And before we get into the presentation, could you tell us a little bit about your experience with mentorship?
Well, obviously, I've been a mentee many different times over the course of my career, and I've also been a mentor. In addition to that, I've had the opportunity to create mentorship programs for major corporations. Those were both for summer interns and for continuing professionals. People think that mentees are something that you do when you're just out of school. And mentorship and being a mentee is something you should be doing your entire life. And so as people were moving along, whether they were doing mid-career changes or were up for positions in the executive suite, we had to make sure that they were getting the mentorship that they needed. So I created, implemented, and reviewed those programs as well.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I think we're looking forward to hearing your presentation. And just so everybody knows, you can put questions in the question and answer box, but we will be doing questions at the end of the presentation unless there's something that comes up that needs clarification in the presentation itself. So take it away, Jody.
Wonderful, Michelle, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm thrilled that you're able to spend this time with me. For those of you on the East Coast, this is probably your lunch break, and those of you on the West Coast or elsewhere around the world, I hope that you're comfortable and relaxed and able to enjoy this time with us together today. So the program that we're doing right now is how to be the model mentee. The mentor-mentee relationship is a complex one, to say the least. It's something that most people don't really take the time to search down and look into. So we're going to delve into it a little bit more today. Welcome. I think Michelle already did a great job welcoming us. Hopefully our technology is working. I am sharing my screen. Hopefully you should see a picture of Rush Reeves, easily recognizable right now on your screens. You should be able to hear me okay. If something happens, feel free to log out and log back in. I think Zoom has done a pretty good job of taking care of any incidents or accidents. I will let you know that I'm here in the New England area and we do have thunderstorms going through. So for some reason I happen to pause or the screen happens to freeze along the way, it's probably the weather and not your technology. I do like to start off all meetings with a PAL. You'll be hearing more about this later on in the presentation as well, but that's a purpose, an agenda, and a time limit. The purpose of our time here together today is to make sure that you understand the role of the mentee and what you can do to maximize your mentee-mentor relationship. Our time, I think we have just about an hour here together today. My presentation will be about 30-35 minutes, leaving the remainder of the time open for questions. Michelle was telling me earlier that a number of you have already sent questions in, so we know that we'll have an active and a engaging Q&A part. And if all goes well, we'll be done right around 1 o'clock. So an introduction. I mentioned a little bit of this already. I am a graduate of the University of Rochester, like most, if not all of you. I have a master's from Cornell University in human resources. So that's where I spent my professional time, is working with corporations and organizations to really maximize the way that they use their workforce. I am also an ongoing volunteer, both through the Leadership Council here in the New England region, as well as an alumni volunteer in the admissions office doing alumni interviews. You just can't get away from Rochester. Mentees, I really like the idea that you are never too old or too young to be a mentee or a mentor. Now, back when I was graduating from the University of Rochester, many years ago, the mentee-mentor relationship was really one that was age-based. In general, the mentees were young people, and the mentors were older, more experienced people. And I think the thing that really helped to turn this on its head was technology. And I remember when my father, at the time when he was still working, said that he had gotten a mentor, and my father had been in the business world for years and years and years. And I said, really, you're gonna have a mentor? I was very happy that he realized there were new things that he could learn. And it was a high school student who was teaching him how to use some of the technology. We are never too old to learn something new. So where does the word mentor come from? It's from our mythical past. In Greek mythology, mentor was a friend of Odysseus. When Odysseus left for the Trojan Wars, he left mentor in charge of his son and his palace. So that's where the word comes from. Defining who is your mentor. A mentor is somebody with knowledge, skills, or experience that you do not have, but you wish to gain. And as I mentioned before, and as you will hear over and over again during this presentation, this is not an age-related thing. You can be older and have your mentee be younger. You can be younger and have your mentee be older. This is really about someone who has experience, who knows how to do something that you don't know how to do and want to learn. And we are never, ever too old to learn something new. So what are the benefits of having a mentor? Obviously, new connections, insider information from different industries, additional leads. It's lower stress. When you're out there and you're officially looking for a job, there is that added stress of, am I just doing this as an informational interview? Am I just doing this as a mentoring relationship? Or am I really looking for a job? This is a situation where someone can really give you open and honest feedback, can give you guidance and information in a low stress environment. They're not giving you a grade, they're not hiring you. You can get that information from them in a free way. Good resume feedback. So if you do decide you are going to be job hunting, you can get that from somebody who's not in a position to hire you. And then of course, there's the guidance and coaching, which is really what a mentor is all about. Now, when people hear the word mentor, they often think they're looking for one singular mentor, that this is one person who is going to guide them in a variety of different aspects. And I'm not a big fan of that concept. When I think about a mentor, I actually think of multiple people. Not everyone can be that one person that you're looking for. And especially in this day and age, when there are so many different things that we need to know, that we need to be aware of, there cannot possibly be one person that can guide you in all of the areas in your life that you're looking for guidance. So I use the number 5. You can have 4, you can have 10. That's really up to you. What I want you to do is I want you to think past having a singular mentor from the time you graduate from college all the way until the time you retire. You should be having multiple mentors, different people at different points in your career. So these are some of the ways that I personally use mentorship. When I'm looking to learn something, when I want some general guidance and advice, I might want to have some specific guidance and advice. When I just need some perspective, I'm up against a really tough client, I'm in a situation that I just can't decide how I'd like to move forward, or if I need help networking. Sometimes moving into a room or moving into a new field, you need someone to help open that door for you. And mentors are people that can help you with that. I want to take a moment and give some examples to make sure that people are understanding and getting what I'm talking about here. So I might decide that I want to go on Instagram. Instagram is not something that I use very often. I might be able to find a local high school student who can mentor me on how to use Instagram appropriately. Now I'm using Instagram and I like it, but the high school student can't tell me how to use it for a business purpose. So now I'm going to find a different mentor that's going to give me some general marketing advice. Then once I'm already up on Instagram, I have somebody who starts sending me really nasty messages, and I want to get some legal advice. Then I'm going to look for a legal mentor that's going to be able to help me with what is occurring at that specific point in time. Maybe I want somebody with a little perspective. So I'm going to look for some of my clients or somebody that is typical of my clients and ask them to look at that Instagram account and give me some feedback on that. And then of course there's the networking, where I might be able to look at other Instagram accounts and try to partner with them or to echo what they're saying so that they echo what I say. So as you're thinking about having a mentor, I want you to really open up the different ideas of what a mentor is and what a mentor could be. In addition to having different types of mentors, there's really different durations. So for example, the example that I used, I'm on Instagram, somebody's sending me questionable messages. I want to talk to my legal mentor. I might only talk to them once or twice, and they've now shared with me the information that I need, and now I can move on. So a mentor is not somebody that you have to have for 15, 20 years. When I was starting my business, some of you might already know the story. I was starting my business and I was going to a lot of networking workshops and activities, and people kept saying, you have got to talk to this woman, Ginger. You've tried to talk to Ginger. She does image consulting, etiquette and image consulting. They're very similar. You've got to talk to her. And that's all people seemed to know, was that her name was Ginger. She did image consulting and she had red hair. And this was back in the day when the internet was still in its infancy. And eventually I went to enough things and enough people told me that they were able to give me her last name, and I found her. Now, Ginger has been one of my mentors now for nearly 25 years. I love that she's an ongoing mentor. There's another woman whose first name is Vicky, and Vicky was very brash, very successful. And I was very interested in having her be my mentor. And I approached her about being my mentor, and she was honest to the point of being painful. And she said, Jody, listen, I don't have the time to be your mentor. Here's the deal. When you have a really big business question, you let me know. You'll send me an email, give me as much detail as possible in the email, and I'll set up a 20-minute phone call and I'll tell you what I think you should do. And over the past 25 years, I've talked to Vicky twice, but both times her advice was spot on. So understanding that these relationships really are up to you. You need to look at the people that you're choosing to be your mentors and decide what sort of ongoing interaction you're going to have with them. Is it a one-time interaction? Is it an ongoing interaction? Is it multiple times, but only over the course of a year? Or is it maybe once a year over the course of 10 years? Mentoring is one of those things that it's not a one size fits all. You need to decide what's going to be best for you. Now, when I originally wrote this program back in 2007, when I had virtual, what I meant was somebody that you actually did not talk to, somebody that you read about, somebody that you maybe watched what they did. So my virtual mentor, when I wrote this, was actually Oprah. I absolutely adored Oprah. I had read all her books. I had seen all of her TV shows. I'd read at the point any magazine articles that she had written. And so when I was up against a question that I would want to ask my virtual mentor, Oprah, I would think, what would Oprah say? Or what would Oprah do? And that would help to guide me. Of course, virtual has taken on a whole new meaning now that we are all in the pandemic and at home, and virtual really can mean somebody that you can have a conversation where they respond back to you, as long as you're doing it via Zoom or WhatsApp or some other video type of platform. The advantage of most people right now staying safely at home is that we have a greater access. Whereas somebody might not have had time to be a mentor for you before, when we were in that go, 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 going to work, going to meetings, going to work out, all those types of things. people have a little bit more time in their day, time when they used to commute or time when they used to go to a class and now they're at home. So you really can take advantage of having a real virtual mentor as opposed to a imaginary virtual mentor like I used to have. So where do you find these mentors? I would be remiss if I didn't mention the #1 place, which would be the University of Rochester. If you're not already aware of the Meliora Collective, it is a way for alumni to connect with other alumni, as well as undergraduates to connect with alumni. This is a wonderful platform for you to be able to find a mentor. You can do it as part of one of the formal mentoring programs, which Michelle will be happy to tell you about a little bit more later, or informally. So when you're looking for your mentors, I usually tell people to look into their 3 Ps. The 3 Ps are the 3 groups, your circles, that you put your life into. So you can find mentors in your personal circle, you can find mentors in your professional circle, and you can find mentors in your philanthropic circles. If you're sitting there writing down personal, professional, and philanthropic, because this is not a concept you've thought of before, these are networking circles. These are ways that I like to advise my clients to think about where they're spending their time. You want to make sure that you have people that you know in your professional setting, both in the companies you work for and outside of those companies. You want to make sure that you have friends at home. We might not be able to be seeing them as much as we'd like to right now in person, but you should have a group of friends outside of the office environment. And when I say philanthropic, I think about it in a very global sense. If you belong to any community organizations, any religious organizations, anything that you're going out and helping to make the world a better place, these are the people that you happen to interact with there. You are able to find mentors in any of these places. Mentors, in general, even if somebody is not coming and knocking on your door or sending you an email saying, I would really love to be your mentor, most people, if you go to them and say, you have some expertise, you're successful in your field, you have something that you know how to do that I would like to learn how to do, most people are flattered and will take the time to be able to speak with you. So mentoring is really a dance. I like to compare it to ballroom dancing, even though this happens to be a ballet picture that I'm using. But when you're dancing, when it's 2 people dancing, there's one person who's leading and one person who's following. And what happens in the mentor-mentee relationship is that the power structure would lead most people to believe that the mentor, the person that has the expertise, the person that has the information, the person that has that skill would be the one leading the dance, but it's not. In the mentor-mentee relationship, the person who is leading is the mentee. It creates an interesting dynamic, which is why I'm really excited that Michelle invited me to come and speak with you today, because I want mentees to know what their responsibilities and what things are well within their control. As the mentee, you are the one who's responsible for this particular relationship. So what does that mean? You obviously, I am an etiquette consultant. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you to mind your manners. You really want to think about being as polite as possible. And that's not just because I want you to be polite. It's also because these people are literally giving their time, their energy, their knowledge to you for free. And you want to be respectful and appreciative of that information that they are sharing with you. You want to do your homework in advance. When I talk to people who say they would like to be etiquette consultants and they say, so Jody, how did you become an etiquette consultant? I find that incredibly frustrating because right on my website, it has a detailed history of how I became an etiquette consultant. Do your homework. Make sure you understand a little bit about this person's background, and you can do a quick Google search on them. You can go to their LinkedIn page. Sometimes they actually have a bio on their company website. Read that in advance. Know what their company does so that you can ask really good questions when you get to the point where you're actually speaking with them. When I talk about doing your homework, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but part of that is also thinking about what you want to get out of this relationship. So when I talk about creating your goals, sometimes you can't do that until you've actually met the person. But once you've had a chance to speak once, maybe twice, you should be able to sit back and think, what can this person teach me? What can I learn from this particular individual? And then you want to establish your communication preferences. So talk overtly during that first conversation about how you are going to be in touch with each other. Some people are really great by telephone. Other people are better by video conference. Some people like to do a combination of it. People who tend to be very busy like to have it scheduled. So find out what the best way for you to interact with them. This person, even though you're in control as the mentee of this relationship, you want to be incredibly respectful of the mentor's time and make sure that you're fitting your time into what is going to be convenient and what's going to work for them. So you are in charge of monitoring your relationship with this person. You want to take responsibility for being the one guiding the conversation. Once you have a time that you're going to meet, you want to confirm. So let's say Michelle is going to be my mentor and I am going to speak with her on August 3rd. On August 2nd, I'll probably send her a quick email saying, dear Michelle, I'm so excited to speak with you on the 3rd. I'll make sure to log in advance. So I'm going to make sure to be on time when we're past this pandemic, and at some point we will be past the pandemic. If you're meeting with the person in person, you want to make sure that you're there a couple of minutes early. You don't want to waste any of your mentor's time. If it's by phone, you want to call exactly on the time that you told them that you were going to call. And if it's going to be a video conference, I actually recommend that you log in 1 or 2 minutes ahead of time to make sure that the connection is there and you're there and waiting when your mentor goes to log into the video conference. You want to be grateful. You want to be humble. You want to make sure that you are interacting with them in a way that is polite and respectful, and you don't want to ghost them. So let's say Michelle and I have a conversation and it is just, we are not clicking for whatever reason. It's my responsibility, because I'm leading the conversation, to close that loop, to send her an email. Dear Michelle, thank you so much for your time yesterday. It was clear that we're not a good match, whatever it is you want to say, but I thank you so much for your time and hope that we get to see each other at reunion next year. So don't leave your mentor wondering what's going on. And in fact, the slide where I was talking about, it can be an ongoing relationship, it can be a 1 or 2 time relationship. I make sure that at the end of the relationship, however long the duration is, that I send some sort of note to indicate that the mentor relationship is wrapping up, so the mentor isn't wondering, is Jody going to call me again? Is she not? So what do you need to do? Number 1, you want to make sure that you have your goals set in advance. What is it that I want to learn from this person? What do I want to get out of this interaction? And it can be difficult, because it could be that I'm talking to somebody who is a vice president of human resources, and I want to go into human resources, and I have a vague idea of what human resources does, but I'm not even sure what I should be asking. This is why I need to do my preparation in advance. What are my questions? What are some of the basic things that I can ask? What can I make sure that I'm getting out of this? What I need to know. So I'm going to prepare my list, and we're going to talk about some of my favorite questions in the next slide, and make sure that you have a pal. Just like at the beginning of this program, I said we're going to make sure that people have an understanding of the mentee relationship and have a couple of tips on how to really maximize that. You want to make sure that you have a purpose, an agenda, and a time limit that you share with your mentor, either in the email confirming or at the very beginning of the conversation, because you are the one who's in charge of leading that conversation. So questions in advance. If you get really stuck, you can always type into any of the search engines questions to ask a mentor and see what they say. But these are some of my favorite questions. So let's say you're a new entrepreneur. You can ask, what one action or decision contributed most to your success? Usually if you have a strong first question, in their answer, you will have other questions that you want to follow up on. So let's say you're a recent graduate or you're in the process of thinking about changing your career. You want to find out what organizations, what professional groups they are involved with. I was talking recently with a student from a hospitality school, and I started asking which organization she had looked into, and she had no idea. The hospitality industry, I'm convinced, has more professional organizations than any other industry I've ever seen in my life. So talking to people and asking which of those organizations people in your area and that area happen to belong to is really going to help you to focus your time and maybe even find places that you want to join, or at least a source for other potential mentors. You want to be a new author, asking established authors how they chose their agents, because an agent-author relationship can be very fraught. Ask anyone who their mentors are. And then if you're upwardly mobile, have them give you feedback on your resume. What am I lacking? When I was first starting out, this was a question that I asked almost every vice president of human resources. And because HR is a support function in most organizations, they said you have to work in operations or on the line. You need to make sure that you work in the business part of the organization before you go back into human resources. That was an incredibly important piece of information for me as I move forward in my career. So your first meeting, you want to make sure you log on in advance. You have that PAL. Remind the person of who you are. If you do have a resume, you can send that in advance. Because this is not a job interview, not all of your mentors are going to take the time to look at that resume. So remind them. I graduated from Rochester 3 years ago. I thought I was going to be a biologist, and now I'm thinking about transitioning into X. Let them have a little bit of information about you. You giving a brief bio at the beginning of the interaction also helps to establish the tone, and it lets your mentor know that you're prepared for the meeting and that you're leading that dance, and that they're there to respond to your questions and provide insight. Begin with your questions. You do want to keep a very close eye on the time. You want to be very conscious that the people that are mentors, the people that have that knowledge, the skills, the experience that you want to learn from, also tend to be very busy people. So make sure that you end a couple of minutes early. As you're wrapping up, ask the mentor if they have any other questions for you. If you're going to be having an ongoing mentor relationship, this is a great time to have them pull out their calendar and schedule the next one. Or if you already have scheduled it as a recurring meeting, make sure that they have the next meeting on their calendar. Again, thank them. You cannot overthank a mentor. So thank them again, and then you can follow up as need be. Subsequent meetings, you don't have to have every single meeting on video, so you might want to do video phone, depending on what happens to work for you. Again, have a PAL for every single meeting. Take notes, follow up, ask them if they have any questions for you. Don't presume that just because you're the mentee, that all of the learning is from the mentor to you. It could be that the mentor has questions that you can help and share information back to them. So do allow that opportunity for a little bit of give and take. This is a relationship. It's not a one-sided interaction. And I do encourage people to check in. And when I say check in, the first person I want you to check in with is yourself. Is this relationship working for me? Am I getting something out of this? Now, I want to take a quick step back, because not every mentor-mentee relationship starts off with a smooth start. I remember early on in my career, I had a mentor who, she and I were different people. We liked different things. We had a hard time having any small talk because we were just oil and water. And after the third time that I met with her, I went back and I was talking to one of my supervisors. And I will mention that your immediate supervisor, your immediate boss cannot be your mentor, because your mentor is somebody that should be able to give you feedback on how to deal with your boss. So you should be looking for your mentors outside of your immediate workspace. But I went back and I was talking to my boss about my mentor, and my boss said, well, this is not somebody that you need to have lunch with. You don't need to go out for drinks with them after work. But is there something that this person is good at doing that you're not good at, that you can learn something from them? And that really, it stuck with me. It took me a while because I had to unpack the fact that I was not going to be friends with this person. This person was not somebody that I liked, to be able to then look past that and say, okay, now that I've established this is not somebody that I like, is this somebody that I can learn something from? And once I got to that mindset, I was able to learn a lot. A lot of times it was stuff that this person did well that I wanted to do. And occasionally it was things that this person, the way that they acted or the way they interacted with people, and I would do the opposite. But I was able to look past the personality for somebody that I can learn something from. And if it's not somebody that you can learn something from, or you've learned everything that you needed from them, you can wind down that relationship and move on and look for other mentors. So I do encourage you to take that time to check in with yourself and make sure that that mentoring relationship is really working for you. And now we can go on to more specific questions and answers. If during the course of this presentation I mentioned something that you wanted to follow up with me, feel free. My website is mannersmith.com, and you can email me at jsmith@mannersmith.com. And Michelle, I'll ask you to read off the questions for me.
Great. We have quite a few.
Wonderful.
I'm glad we have some time to answer all of them. So the first one says, hi, Jody. Thanks for this great presentation. How should we manage our networking contacts when it comes to finding mentors? Should we consider everyone we network with a mentor?
That's a really good question, because it really digs down into what type of mentor you're looking for. I consider some people in my networks to be mentors. There are people that are easier to learn from and who are more giving of themselves than others. So you can consider your entire network as a potential mentor, but then you need to think about what you're trying to learn right now. Am I looking to get promoted? Well, if I'm looking for promotion, I want to look for somebody who is 2 or 3 levels above where I am right now. I want to look for somebody both inside my organization and somebody in my industry outside of my organization. And then once you start to narrow that down, you can approach different people. In the Melior Collective, where we have this unbelievable opportunity to be able to ask people officially to be mentors. In the real world, outside of the University of Rochester alumni grouping, the first meeting, 1 or 2 meetings, I actually discourage people from using the M word, because when people hear the word mentor, they think of a long-term obligation, and you don't want to turn them off, because it could be it turns into a long-term obligation, but you don't want to ask them that all the way up front. You can just ask somebody to meet you. Well, once we're past the pandemic, you can ask somebody to meet you for coffee. Right now, you can ask somebody to spend some time talking to you over the phone or via Zoom. But yes, so your entire network has the potential to be mentors, but you want to zero down into a handful of people that can really spend some time interacting with you.
Great. The same person said, hello again. If we want to thank an old time mentor with a small gift, what would be an acceptable gift to get for them?
That first of all, I love where you're going. A handwritten note really detailing what it is that you were able to gain from the relationship is going to be incredibly meaningful to them. After that, you should know something about your mentor. So if this person is from the University of Rochester, sending them a coffee mug with the University of Rochester crest on it, or if you know that they play golf, golf balls that have the Meliora seal on them, that's going to be helpful. If you don't know a whole lot about them, generally sending flowers, sending gourmet chocolates, what you're looking for is a gesture. The better you know them, the better you can choose what that gesture is. It does not have to be incredibly expensive. What it does need to be is thoughtful. But start off with that handwritten note and then decide a little thing that's going to help that's going to be meaningful to them from you.
Okay. What are your thoughts on paid mentorship programs? A former employer paid for a service which paired mentors with our employees. The relationship was sometimes strange due to its transactional nature.
That's interesting. I would have to find out more about it. As long as you as the mentee was not paying for it, I would take advantage of it. That's the programs that I've set up, we never had somebody pay. They did not get actual extra dollars. I can see where that would help to incent people, because being a mentor and being a good mentor does take time. So I'm not opposed to people being paid. So again, you should really zero in on what your goals are being a mentee in that relationship. And if the employer is paying for it, by all means, take advantage of it as much as possible. Just make sure that you're getting out of it what you were putting into it or what you were hoping to gain from it.
Okay, next one is we are putting together a mentoring program where we match professionals across our family of companies. Having designed programs yourself, what are the big pitfalls or mistakes we should avoid?
So yeah, the matching piece is really tough. So what I would encourage you to do is to make sure that the mentors put together really informative bios. They don't have to be long. The longer they are, the less informative they tend to be. But asking the mentors, what are you good at? And what do you like to coach other people in doing? And then allow the mentees to shop. And you can decide whether you want to take people's names off of it so that they're doing it anonymously or not. I like the mentees to be the ones that are able to then choose their top 3 choices and then try to match people that way. So because the mentees are the ones that are supposed to be leading this relationship to begin with, I like them to be the one to have a say in who they choose. But the mentors need to be responsible for telling people what they have to offer, what it is that they can teach them, or information that they can provide for them.
Great. Next question. Any pointers for how to revive and better structure an existing mentor relationship that has been infrequent, occasional for many years, trying to figure out a tactful way to pivot?
So this person wants to continue the relationship.
It sounds like they would like, yes, to kind of revive it after, I guess, infrequent communication.
So I would start with flattery. Dear Michelle, it's Jody. I know we haven't been in touch in the past couple of years. I'm at a point in my career where I'm able to stop for a moment and really think about what I want to do. And when I realized I needed some advice, yours was the first name that came to mind. I know that you would have the perfect piece of advice to share with me. Would you have time to speak with me in the coming weeks? Please let me know what days and times work for you so that we can connect again. So a little flattery, and tell them what you're looking for. I'm looking for some advice because I'm at a certain point in my career.
The next one, thank you very much for your presentation. I want to ask whether there is a good resource you'd recommend for email etiquette, whether reaching out to mentors or more generally for professional communication.
That is a great question, and I don't have one off the top of my head. but I can work on that. If they can give, Michelle, if they can give you their email, I'd be happy to follow up with them afterwards.
We can definitely put it in our follow-up because we will be sending out the video of this presentation. So any resources we come up with, we can add to that as well.
Perfect. Wonderful.
The next one, I was in an unpaid mentorship prior to the COVID shutdown, where I was being given ethically questionable assignments that were intended to maximize the mentor's profit. How, other than COVID, can I avoid similar uncomfortable situations?
I would love to be able to talk with you one-on-one to find out what was going on there, but that sounds really questionable. If there is a mentor that's using mentees as unpaid labor, that's actually an internship and not a mentoring relationship. And I'm not sure if this was officially part of your job, but if it was not part of your job, I would be stepping back away from that. I would also be talking with human resources, the people that were in charge of this program, to make sure that they were aware of what was going on. That's not a mentor-mentee relationship. That's something else altogether.
Okay, I agree with you completely on that one. The next one is, how can we write an initial message in a way that stands out to potential mentors so that they are more likely to reply?
Short, a little bit of flattery. In fact, I don't think I included in this, you know what, Michelle, remind me, because I have a sample template for that particular question that we can include in the email that goes out afterwards.
Okay, great.
Yeah, there's some really easy verbiage that I can provide you with a template, and then just make it your own so that it sounds like it's coming from you. But basically short, sweet, let them know where they know you from or how you connected with them. Let them know what it is you're interested in finding out, and ask for a very short time frame. When I'm just starting out in a mentor relationship, so not something official through like the Meliora Collective, but this is something that I'm doing on my own through my own networking, I usually ask for 20 minutes. People are hard pressed to say no to 20 minutes. So I ask for a very short amount of time. And then if that interaction goes well and I want to continue, I'll ask for 20 minutes the next time, 30 minutes the time after that. And then by then I will ask for a formal mentoring interaction on an ongoing basis. So start small, short, sweet flattery, and I'll include to you, Michelle, the template email so that people have something to work from.
Okay, great. This one is regarding an older re-entering professionals who need help with technology, current business practices, and combating ageism. How can the older mentee locate a supportive mentor?
All right, so there's a couple of different things that I would say. So first of all, you might have 2 or 3 mentees. So you might have somebody who returned to the workplace recently who can give you advice about that. You can talk to somebody who is younger and more familiar with technology who can give you advice about that. And then you might be able to talk to somebody either through the Meliora Collective or through the Green Career Center who can give you advice on your resume. In addition, I would advise you to look in groups. I know I'm in Boston, so there tends to be a lot of resources, but there are groups in Boston that are specifically designed. So these are professional groups, nonprofits, not clubs, but slightly like one step above a club of groups of people who are returning to the workforce that support and give feedback to each other. So if we have them in Boston, I hope that you have them in other places as well. And I would look for those as well. But the biggest thing I would tell this person is, number one, you have something to offer in the workplace. So don't be afraid to get back out there. And number two, look for multiple mentors. This is a perfect example of, don't look for one person that can give you all of the advice that you're looking for. Look for groups of them.
Perfect. The next one, thank you for your presentation. As an international student, I am curious that are there any challenges that international students are facing when looking for and maintaining the mentor relationship? And do you have any advice for international students on this matter?
So for international students, the two things that pop to mind first and foremost is number one, the timing. So you want to be able to look for somebody where your timing can match up. So I'm thinking about somebody who it might be 11 o'clock at night your time because you're a student, you're still up at 11 o'clock at night, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning where your mentor is. So instead of looking East Coast, depending on where you are, you might want to look West Coast. So you might actually be talking on different days. When I talk to people on the other side of the planet, sometimes I say, hi, I'm calling from the future. So look for, part of looking for your mentor is looking in time zones so that there's a time that you're both awake at the same time, even if it's morning for the other person and nighttime for you or vice versa. So that would be the first thing. And then the second thing for an international student, I want you to think about where you want to be ultimately. And it doesn't have to be 15 years down the line. In the next 3 years, where do you want to live? Are you still hopefully going to be living in the United States? Then I want you to look for somebody who is living here in the United States. If you are going back to your home country, I want you to look for somebody in your home country. I want you to find a mentor in the location that you plan to be, because that's going to give you the most information. Just a slight aside. So if I was going to be living in China, I'm going to look for somebody who's already in China to give me advice on things I need to do, things I need to think about, networks I need to join, professional organizations I need to be a part of before I get there. So think about where you're going to be and find a mentor in that situation already.
Okay, I think the next one is it's an important one because we do get this a lot from people asking about mentorship and the relationship and job search. So the question is, I wanted to ask if there is a way to maneuver a conversation from getting to know each other, talking about your goals, to asking for help regarding job searching. And the person says, I'm from a culture where we don't really reach out to people we don't know for career-related things out of fear of looking needy. I think this has often stopped me from networking.
All right, so there's a couple of different.
Yeah, there are a couple of things in there.
Yeah. So yes, networking and job seeking is very culturally specific. And the fact that you're already aware of that means that you're already a couple steps closer to figuring out how it is that you can do it effectively. Here in the United States, we do actively self-advocate. If you're going to be going to a culture that people don't self-advocate, you need to really build those networks and then ask those closest to you to help make those connections for you. I encourage you to be a part of the Melior Collective Mentor Program, because this is a great question for you to be asking your mentor. The way that I like to frame it is not to ask during the first or even the second conversation. By the second conversation, I'm going to ask things like, can you look over my resume and tell me where you see holes, where you see something that I'm missing? And then maybe the third or fourth conversation, I will say, I'm thinking about looking for a job. Can you give me some advice? Where do you think I should start looking? Now, good mentors, if they have a job available, they will say, oh, give me your resume, or here, go to this part of my company's website and apply for a job. Not all mentors have job openings at the ready, and that's okay. So other mentors will be able to say, we're not hiring right now, but I'll keep my ears open for you, or make sure to check this page, or I heard that these people were hiring. But here in the United States, our culture is one of self-advocacy, and not at the beginning, because that would be, even in our culture, a little bit too pushy. But as you establish a relationship, ask for feedback on your resume, and then ask for advice for job seeking. And even here in the United States, you would never ask your mentor, do you have a job for me? That's one step too far.
Thank you. Next question. I'm currently contemplating a midlife career change and seeking a mentor to help me navigate changes and skills required to change that to this new career. How can I find someone to help with this?
So this is great. This is actually the perfect opportunity for you to find multiple mentors. And I like to use informational interviewing as well as having mentors when you're doing something like a career shift. So before you choose your mentor, I would actually encourage you to look for 10 people who are currently in the field that you want to be in, or in the position, if you're already in the field, in the position that you would like to transition to, and schedule with those 10 people informational interview calls where you simply interview them just like you were a journalist about what they do. What do you do all day? What sort of certification did you need? What do you wish somebody had told you before you took this job? And then obviously, after you interview them, you send them a handwritten thank you note to thank them for their time. And once you've done the 10, think about which one of these people was most helpful to me. Which one of these people did their answers really resonate? And then ask them if you can do a follow-up call with them or a follow-up video conference with them to tell them that you're in the process of pivoting and that you're looking for somebody to give you very serious feedback, and would they be willing to do that? So that's where I would start. I would do 10 informational interviews and then narrow the pool from there.
And just for a little plug, the Meliora Collective has a nice way for you to find people who are working in specific industries or having specific expertise. So you can use our filters system so that you can actually find the people that you're looking for. And it's a great way to do what Jody said, to reach out and set up these informational interviews. Anybody that's on the collective has already opted into helping other people in the University of Rochester community. So keep that in mind. Okay, next question. How important is setting expectations for the relationship, and how does one do this well? I know you talked a lot about sort of setting up expectations. Is there anything else that we could add to that list?
Yeah, this is really all about your goals. Making sure that you know what you want to get out of this relationship. And when you've gotten that information, to be able to say, Michelle, this has been great. I really feel that I have a great, a good handle on how to get on Instagram. I will definitely be back in touch, but I think we're past having to meet on a weekly basis. And then of course, I'm gonna send her a thank you note, making sure that she knows that. So yeah, this is all about your goals. Make sure that you know what you want to get out of the relationship. And when you hit the goals, and these goals don't have to be secret, you can share them with your mentor. And when you get to a point where you've ticked off all of your goals, if no new ones have popped up, that's when you can part ways pleasantly.
Yeah, you know, to talk a little bit more about that, when the relationship isn't going in the direction that, you know, you thought it was going to go in, or if you have a mentor that is not engaging with you, I mean, you've given some really good tips on how to re-engage mentors. I'm just wondering, you know, if you have the relationship challenges of, say, somebody that you think is just from a completely different mindset. I know you said that you could end the relationship, but how could you, before you actually do that and give up, you know, how can you talk to that person so that you feel comfortable sort of addressing the issue that maybe you'd like to refocus them to the goals that you've put forward? Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but without having a specific scenario, it's really hard to be able to give you a specific answer. There really is nothing wrong with saying, Michelle, I noticed the last time we spoke that when I asked you a question, and when I asked you this question, you seemed very annoyed with me. Was that something that I did, or something that I should have done differently? and give them an opportunity to explain themselves. But if you've had 2 or 3 interactions with this person and you are simply not gelling, don't waste their time and don't waste your time. I'd much rather you find other mentors that are going to be able to speak to you and that you're going to be able to learn from. Not everybody learns from people the same way. We all have different communication styles. We have different learning styles. And sometimes you can get past a personality difference and still learn from somebody. And other times you need to cut the line and move on to somebody new.
How long do you think a meeting with a mentor should last? I mean, what would be a typical?
Initially, I want them to be short. I want you to, because you're the one in charge of getting that relationship going. I would do literally 20 minutes the first one, make it a really brief introductory meeting, then move it to 30 minutes. And then if it looks like this relationship is going to go on, I would book an hour, but I would always end early. And that way the person had at least an extra 10 minutes to look at their email or get ready for their next meeting.
Sounds good. That's very sound advice. We're getting close to the end, and I want to be mindful of everybody's time, but I also wanted to mention before we wrap up that we are going to be introducing a mentorship program for the university on the Melior Collective, our online platform for networking and exploration and mentorship in the fall. We don't know exactly what date it will be, but it is a 3-month-long commitment. And we are in the process of a pilot right now, and we are learning a lot about the resources that we need to make it successful for our users. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody that's on this call or on the meeting knows that we will be having that available. And the wonderful thing about this is, as Jody's mentioned, the Melior Collective, it's for the university community. So using it for whether it's the long-term program, the 3-month program that we're introducing, or it's just the daily connection that you have with people that you're finding on this platform, feel free to reach out to people because everybody has opted into this program. We have over 7,000 people on the platform right now. So whether you're a student, a parent, or an alum, there's a lot of opportunity to find people that you're looking for mentorship. And Jody, can you speak a little bit to the university community for this mentorship opportunity?
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's the first place you should start if you're looking for a mentor. It's because you already know that these people, first of all, you have something in common because you went to the University of Rochester, and that they're willing to talk with you. So as you are considering having a mentor, the University of Rochester would be the first place I would start. And for those of you who stayed with us on the call all the way to the end, I do have my last little piece of secret advice. You can use this question with mentors, and you can also use this question in networking situations. The question I like to ask is, can you tell me the best piece of advice someone ever gave you? Now you can change that, the best piece of business advice someone ever gave you. You can tweak it a little bit to your particular circumstance, but this question I've found elicits amazing responses and really good stories that people will tell you about favorite grandparents or mentors that they have had, and what advice was shared with them that really worked to help them move forward in their careers that they're now sharing with you.
That's a perfect way to end. That's a really great piece of advice for everyone. And I look forward to hearing everyone's success stories. And definitely we look forward to hearing from Jody tomorrow. For anybody that hasn't signed up for the second part of this, we will be addressing the role of the mentor. And I look forward to hearing more from her tomorrow. Jody, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. We will be sending out to anybody that was registered, and it will eventually end up in our archive where we have all of our wonderful webinars housed. So that's it for today. So we'll see you tomorrow, Jody, and thanks everybody for coming.
Meliora.
Meliora. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.